What's up guys? This video is titled What's up guys? This video is titled Surprising Truths About Millionaires. So one thing I've found after watching a lot of videos and speeches by millionaires, especially all the ones that are very young or still in the scene, I have found something very surprising, which is that they're not how you think they would be. And this is true in a lot of ways. But in this video specifically, I want to talk about how this is true in terms of dating and their dating lives and so forth. A lot of wealthy people, and of course there's always exceptions. I would say the exceptions are those who are in the maybe the Hollywood or celebrity or entertainment industry. But outside of that, like if you look at people who make their money with businesses or some type of internet business or just doing something else, a lot of these big earners, they're not doing that well with girls. And there's a lot of reasons for this. One is that, oftentimes, and I see this a lot, like I literally watched a few interviews today by a website called Mixergy, and they literally bring in millionaires every day and they interview these people. And literally, even today, I found that a lot of them are pretty darn nerdy. And it's kind of like you have to be a certain level of nerdy to get into this. Not always, but if they're not nerdy, some of them are fairly good looking. They are so engrossed in their business, either because they have a deep interest in it or they're good at it. But more often than not, it's because the amount of effort and work and skill and intensity and focus needed to do so, it really takes over their entire lives. So they really don't have much time to go out and do anything else. And even if they do, they're not superstars in the social skill realm. So I found that very interesting as well. And so, I think there's this big misconception that this whole idea or myth or fantasy that all these millionaires are these like, super dashingly handsome individuals who do really well. And that's not the case. And even if you go to the six-figure level or below, where these people are making a lot of money as a computer programmer or a doctor, guess what? The same thing kind of applies. Like, a lot of these people are pretty nerdy, not that attractive, and if they are, they're working really hard. They're working like around the clock. So it's one of those fallacies that I think, it's one of those things where it's like, is that really like what you want? And so you chase all the money, and then like you get there and you're like, so much time being wasted. And so obviously there's definitely exceptions to the rule, but I found this very interesting. And in addition to that, these aren't exactly related to dating, but I think they're also very interesting. They are very often already married, or they married young. Not always, there's exceptions again. And the second thing is that they are very they're already married. The second thing is that they usually have bad fashion, or they don't dress like a rich person will dress. Now, again, there's plenty of people who do dress really well, given the fact that they're rich. Now, there's plenty of people who do dress really well, and I do think I've read it, and I do think it helps on many levels to dress well, groom yourself well. And it's mentioned in a lot of books. Napoleon Hill's book. There's this book called The Magic of Thinking Big, and it talks about how if you groom well and you dress well, it opens yourself to more opportunities. It makes you change your mentality about how you think of yourself and how other people perceive you. And so I do think there's a huge importance to dressing well and looking well, because like it or not, people judge you. But I've really been surprised. You know, I was talking to this one person who runs into a lot of really wealthy individuals, and what this person found was that a lot of these super wealthy individuals that she ran into with, you know, tens of millions of dollars, oftentimes they were Hispanic, or, you know, uh, they were Asian, and they dressed like everyday people, sometimes to the point where they had holes in their shirt, literally, and like holes in their shoes. They didn't care much about how they dressed. And then you saw other people who had maybe, you know, they were making hundreds of thousands, but nowhere near as much as the other people. And these individuals were show offs. So they dressed so well. They had like all these like designer clothing and all this stuff. And they were on the arrogant side. And it was kind of, you know, embarrassing because they weren't nearly making as much, and yet they were showing off so much. So that's not really good either. Long story short, everyone, long story short, it's really opened my eyes up because, you know, I do think wealth, long story short, it has opened my eyes up because you would think, long story short, it's opened my eyes up because you would think it's like this, but it's not. That's like a fantasy, but it's make believe. Reality, I think, is a lot different. These people are oftentimes really nerdy, or they worked really, really hard, and oftentimes they're not that attractive. And then even if you go to the billionaire level, a lot of these billionaires, like, they're not that attractive, and oftentimes they're old, you know, because it takes so long to accumulate so much wealth. And they've spent their entire lives, like 18-hour days, every day of the week, no weekends off, working really hard because they love what they do. And they and I'm not saying that they didn't do well with women oftentimes. And I'm not saying that they didn't do well with women, but some of them, they didn't even have time to do well with women. Or they spent most of that time, or they spent most of their years poor or broke, or plowing every last dollar back into the business, or just working head over heels, or just working head over heels at their business. I think so. What I'm saying is that I do think that being financially independent and stable and successful should be attractive to any rational human being, as opposed to the alternative of being broke and homeless and unable to generate income or provide for yourself, let alone other people. However, wealth on its own, without considering a dozen other factors at play, is not the most, you know, it's not the best, it's not the best thing to do. It's not the best thing to do when you're, it's not the best thing to do. As always, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Peace.